I caught up with Wendy and Vanessa, and for their view on, and kind of a helicopter view, these guys have got the backstage access to what's actually going on in the industry from a campsite point of view. And we caught up with them to see what they thought. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi.
Hello, thank you. Hi.
It's great to see you both. So we've been talking about the fact that, we think there's going to be less camping, more glamping, and we're trying to explain what we mean by that. We're seeing, camping products, the caliber of which are getting more luxurious. Tents are getting more and more expensive. Motorhomes are getting more expensive. And we're seeing campsites react to this and respond to this by upping the offering. Haven are putting a hot tub on every balcony, and more yurts and these luxurious alternatives to what I grew up as a camping holiday on a campsite. What's your view of what's going on? What do you think is happening, and what are you seeing? Tell us more.
We've been in this particular industry now for 10 years. We have celebrated being, a booking management system for 10 years. And over that period of time, we have seen glamping consistently grow and grow year on year and year. We've gone to the glamping shows. We've supported lots of, campsites, as you say, up in their service and up in what they offer. We've worked with so many campsites, holiday parks, which have taken a part of their land and said, right, okay, we'll turn that into a more exclusive, luxurious zone. We'll go and put some pods in there, some S pods or, wigwams, whatever they want to do. And you're right, it's all about adding the value of it. So they can increase the prices, but give a really great guest experience as well. Mm-hmm. We have seen a huge spike, but it's not like a huge spike over like one particular month, but it's been consistent over the years. We've seen this grow.
And so you're seeing more campsites coming into play, into birth, as it were?
Yeah, I'd say so, definitely, because, as we've been growing our own business by providing the booking software, we've actually seen a huge diverse there's no standardized sense of a campsite, because there's the good, the bad, and the ugly all the way through it. You have a great rural wild camping kind of establishment, right through to a very traditional family run campsite with static caravans, some pitches and some glamping. What is interesting is that there's a huge amount of diversification taking place. If you've got the land and you've got a great location or access to a great location, then you're going to want to try and cater for quite a wide market, from people who would just want to go and do a bit of backpacking, from people who want to go into a motorhome and they want to enjoy a really good level gravel pitch to pitch down, but somebody also enjoy the whole glamping experience, wherein hopefully in theory you can go and turn up with no paraphernalia and enjoy the great space.
Has anyone ever really defined it? What's your view on the word glamping, Vanessa?
I think it's been an easily adoptable, absorbable word, if you like, in the sense that it had to have a name. Luxury camping didn't seem to describe the experience either.
That would be lamping, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I just think that the crux of it is that technology and new products in this whole sphere have made modern camping a lot cushier than a few decades ago. And I think there's, as we've discussed over the years, there's a perfect storm of, an increase in demand for British holidays. And with that, people are looking into, as Wendy's been saying, diversification and making more money out of their land. Some of them farmers, they're not earning necessarily a lot of money anymore in the farming industry. So they're looking at how they can make money. They've got land, they can convert barns, they can put in pods, they can put in tree houses. But tangled up in all of this is the guest experience. And I think where there is innovation, there's expectation. And then where there's innovation and expectation, there's an increase in prices. And, the whole thing just, it just is going on an upward trend and trajectory all the time.
And of course, it costs a lot of money to build a campsite, doesn't it? I mean, friends of ours are farmers who have diversified and built a campsite, and it's cost them fortunes. Even the waste management, has been a headache.
Then you need to get your return on the investment, which means, you push up the prices, you expect a higher caliber, if you like, of in terms of paying guests. I think social media has completely changed everything too. The fact that camping has become this like cultural pop icon almost, we're inundated with images of adventurers, of freedom. They're young, they're families, they're retirees. It's for everyone. Everyone can get into glamping and adventure and experience, and we're just feeding off that, aren't we?
We are.
We need to be the cool kids. We need to join in on this, so everyone wants a piece of that action.
And Wendy, you were saying earlier, you're seeing some traditional campsites responding to this, and they don't necessarily want to innovate and therefore put prices up because they don't want to exclude their traditional customer. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, we were having some conversations with some sort of campsites where they've been running them for 20, 30 years, or they've been handed over to the children running the campsites previously owned by their parents. And there are some places where people go camping there every single year. They know exactly what they're going to get. And there is this tentative kind of notion where, do you change what you've been offering? Do you reach out into new markets? And there has been some like, actually, no, I really like keeping it the old school way of camping, allowing the caravanners to come along and, come with their fold-out tents and the little gas stoves and that sort of thing, and really enjoy the traditional camping. If you're doing that experience and then just a few meters away, you've got a glamping outfit with, the Land Rovers coming through, you're going to feel like I'm not in the right space. Probably much like when you go on a holiday abroad, I suppose. You go like, I've been to the Canary Islands a lot and stayed in various different resorts, and you've got the resorts that are a bit like, I hate to say it, the Benidorms, and you go to some resorts, it's like different class of people that are there. When you're mixing it all up on a holiday park or a campsite, you have to be really careful and considerate about those people who can probably just afford to go camping because it is a cheap end of the market, sitting next door to people who are potentially spending thousands for the same view. So it's interesting. There has been some resistance from some campsites, not all, but some want to keep hold of their grassroots.
Are you saying you can't mix the two?
No, I think you could mix them, but I think it's going to be something a park will need to consider. And I suppose it depends on how much land you've got as well, because if you've got acres of land, you could probably absorb it. There's some campsites I know that do offer two completely different ends of the extreme. There are some campsites I know actually in Wales, for example, who are adult only. So it's not necessarily about the camping and the different grades of camping. They want a specific type of person going camping.
Yeah.
So there's a huge level of diversification, but still there's still a sense of what's the phrase for it? It's like there's no standardization as such. There's no one campsite the same. It's not like there's a Premier Inn of campsites where every single one is uniform. You're going to expect the same thing. I don't think. But yeah, I think it depends on how much space they've got. If you've got plenty of space, and you probably could afford to have a section where you have got some really great glamping with the Land Rovers coming through, all the different types of people that could afford to spend £1,000 plus, for a glamping experience. Whereas ultimately still, when you go camping, you're spending probably between £10 and £25 per night. There are two completely different ends of the extreme. It's interesting. I see it very much from a booking behavior perspective, which is the angle that I come on. I see so many people archiving, pitches in favor of them converting them into pods. So there's a lot of change that has happened in certainly in our inventory over that period of time. What the mechanics look like on the ground, I don't know. I'd probably go on how I would feel if I wanted to have the outdoor, almost wild camping experience, but then a few feet away, there are people there with the hot tubs and the pods. I think, is that interrupting my experience? I don't know. I think it's an interesting one, but I think there's going to be a balance.
Is it driven by the festival market? Because going to a festival, look at Glastonbury. I mean, they've taken over fields and built yurts on them, and they offer a glamping solution, and it is thousands of pounds to go and stay there in a tent. To me, that seems like a very new market. Would you agree?
Definitely, and I think some of the laws, the legislation has changed in terms of the pop-up sites as well. The Caravan and Motorhome Club, for example, I've done quite a few pop-up events, but they're all based on events though, so the experience is completely different. It's almost like what you're going to stay in is almost not secondary, but you're there because you're going to experience something else, which is different to going to a traditional, I would say, family-run campsite where you're going there to relax and explore for the area. We've seen loads of pop-up campsites, and certainly during the pandemic it did go literally wild. They were coming out left, right and center. Farmers having a bit of land where they can go and make the most of the 60-day license to go and do a temporary pop-up site, so they could earn probably between 11 and 15,000 pounds over the course of the summer, just by opening up some fields.
I think there's another angle too, though, Matt, where it's the proprietor's desire to extend their season that is also driving the increase in the glamping facilities. Because in order to extend the season, you've got to put down the hard standing for perhaps more touring vehicles all year round. But you would need to potentially put in yurts, put in the hot tubs to attract people to the yurts, put in the barbecue huts to attract people to your facilities. So it's that whole notion of extending the season that is also driving the growth in glamping.
Yes.
Or things of luxury that it doesn't necessarily have to be classed as glamping. So there's that angle as well to consider.
And another area I've seen of growth, which fascinates me, are Airstream caravans going on the roofs of buildings in the middle of a city. I mean, that's a caravan holiday with a difference, isn't it? Is that something you're seeing more of as well?
We tend not to get too involved in the kind of the urban market. We are, most of our interactions are in rural places, so I can't comment too much on that, but I do see it in social media. I think, oh, do you know what? That's a really cool idea, where you see sky risers and they've literally got tents on that. I just hope they're really well pegged down, and I just think, okay, but we talked about this in a different conversation with you, Matt. We talked about legislation and how can you make things safe, for example. So there's all sorts of wild ideas to give a completely different experience, but who's looking after it all?
Well, yeah, that's very true. And what do you predict will happen over the next year or two, or perhaps 3 years, in terms of innovation? Is there any crystal ball gazing that you guys have done where you think, well, we can see this growing and this changing?
It's an interesting one. The market is quite say volatile in terms of business surviving. So it's going to be about survival, I think, over the next sort of couple of years. We did a Q&A session with a whole host of campsite owners. We talked about various different topics about how am I going to survive over the next season with fuel prices increasing as much as they have done, where people are coming with electric cars and are just charging up on the electric hookups. They weren't designed necessarily for that. What we have seen is lots of parks being acquired by bigger chains of parks as well. So there's a lot of movement in that front. So yeah, I think for me, it's going to be survival mode for the next few years. And they know they survived from the pandemic, so we can do the next bit.
And do you think that need to survive will encourage innovation, or you think it'll be about consolidation?
Oh, that's an interesting one.
It's an interesting question. I think it's probably a bit of both. But I think what we'll see a great deal of innovation in is really in terms of the environment, sustainability and accessibility. The accessibility market's huge. The green environment is growing. I do a lot of work with the Southwest Tourism Awards and the inimitable Robin Barker, and I once had this chat with him where he said there's going to be no such thing as excellence in tourism if you're not looking at sustainability and accessibility. So if you want to be considered to be an excellent outfit, and what you offer is excellent, you need to be looking at these things. So innovation is going to be very much in terms of planting wildlife corridors, drilling your own boreholes,
the sharing economy as well.
And also looking at, again, glamping, what are we doing differently? Someone's just come onto our books who's actually going underground. So they're going to be using recycled materials and pushing their units underground. That's going to be a completely new and different experience.
I'll go there.
Yeah, people are
be a hobbit.
Amazing people. Yes, a hobbit. People are amazing. There's no limit to the innovation in this industry right now, which makes it a very, very exciting place to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's uncertainty, sure, but it sounds really exciting. I'm encouraged. Thank you. That's great. Well, guys, thank you both very much for your insight. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch up again and see where we are in the near future, and see if we're all living underground on holiday.
Absolutely. I should look forward to that.
you.